Hello, my name is Anna Hardy, and I am here to show you how Academia Prehistoria is working so that you can work on it more. So yeah, basically you take a cave person and you place them into different buildings based on their abilities, and you get to see their stats here. Didn't do so well in history and culture, it looks like, because he got a 2.0. Let's put him in mathematics, might do better. I actually myself am not familiar with the formulas and how all the stats affect each other and affect the outcomes, because I've mostly been working on the UI side of this, not the core gameplay loop. I wouldn't say I'm very involved in. And you can press this little I button. Like I recommend, like I've sincerely played this before, like trying to do my best and stay alive the longest. And I definitely recommend doing that. But for now, I really just kind of want to show you what's going on. So you can see he gets this little green dot, and more cave people come in as time goes on, though we have gotten the feedback that they come in too quickly for new players. As, you know, a gamer, it doesn't necessarily feel that way, but we're trying to make this game work for people who aren't necessarily gamers. So that feedback's really important, and if you're working on this project, you probably want to work on that some. I've had more like game-breaking bugs to fix, so I haven't quite worked on the flow of the cave people yet. And yeah, so you basically get more cave people. My recommended strategy, if you're trying to play this game for real, is to actually just push one person through, because you don't get any more stars or money until until they get maxed out. Sorry, until they get graduated. Ooh, I don't want to build another English building. Oh, too late. I accidentally did. But yeah, that's how you build a building. You can also build monuments. And that's something you might want to fix. That is being able to click off that. Looks like I can't quite do that. Something I've had a lot of experience with right now is basically trying to make it so you can't accidentally put some cave person back into a class they just exited out of. So what I have them doing right now is exiting at a diagonal. And that seems to be working pretty well from my experience. And also you double click on them to look at their transcript. You can see the plan of study here after they've assigned a major to them. And that was really important because there was a way clunkier way of doing it before I worked on it. But that meant that sometimes if you double click on a cave person too close to a building, they'll go in the building. But as you can see, I've done a lot to combat that, because earlier on in development, he would have just popped right on in there. So yeah, let's save the game. But that's something that, you know, you could continue pushing if you're still getting feedback that that's a problem. As I am playing this right now, I have not gotten feedback on my latest build, so I do not know if it is still a problem. I tested as best I can, but it's really hard to break your own game, you know. So as you can see a moment ago, I just saved. As you can see, the save UI, it's not really been customized to fit with Academia Prehistoria branding. That might be something Dr. Whittinghill has you working on. I don't really know what your assignment is going to be. I think this is the one I just saved. Yeah. So you can see the buildings come back, all the cave people come back. It's really great. The only problem is, one of the only problems is, you can see they don't get a sprite anymore. I have tried my darndest to fix that. I do not know why it is a problem. And this only happens sometimes. And the fact that it only happens sometimes is very strange. So the first time you play this might not happen to you. But sometimes when you load the game, the English building and the math building and everything, they will load on top of each other. But that just happens for the ones that you start out with. Let me see about to, yeah.
So the ones you custom built, I've never seen it happen with. So I do think it's spawning twice, but I've worked my very best to make sure that doesn't happen, and I thought it'd be an easy thing to fix, but it has not been. So with all that said and done, I'm gonna go for a stroll around the code a bit. There is a lot of code in this file. A lot of it is not used, or at least it's not used often, to be honest with you. If you're going to be working with the save load functionality at all, anything you see in here with an SL in the name, I think it's these 5 items right here, are going to be the things you're working with. I think this one in particular is one of the most essential. Yes, because this actually has save load game functions that I've written using the Savior. I did use the Savior plugin, but I had to write these functions to make it work. That's an essential thing for saving and loading. All this does is it controls the HUD, so it will hide less relevant components when you're saving loading. So as you can see, if you hit play game, load game, oh, the main menu disappears. So it controls the fact that that happens, and it also controls the fact that when you save in the main game, the overall HUD will disappear. And I can show you that as soon as this loads. You press save, and you see like that HUD that had you know, your cave person counter and all that goes away when you save. So that's all that HUD thing controls. And some of these are more static. Like this is going to be something you might be working with. It says, you know, how it gives you a little profile picture and tells you how long you've played and what your level is, or at least it's supposed to. It doesn't actually do that yet. So that might be functionality that you want to implement. And this just deals with setting up the slots. You probably won't need that, but you might. Up here, I've pulled up some of the most essential places. If you need to do something and you can't figure out where to do it, one of these 5 places is probably your answer. So this is the cave person, and this basically has all the data that a cave person has. Something I definitely want to draw your attention to. There's a lot going on here, and you should definitely go through it. And like I said, I will warn you that even within files that are useful, there can be a lot of ghost code floating around, and that it's not really connected to anything. It's not a real term, I just kind of made it up. It's not really connected to anything, and it isn't actually used for anything. Like there's no event that actually uses it, or no event that's ever called that uses it. So do kind of be wary of that. I'm sorry, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. It was like that when I received the file. I generally tried to delete my ghost code, tried to make sure only relevant code is kept. I'm sure I've left some artifacts lying around, but you know, I've done my best to keep it clean, but to clean up this whole project file, you know, maybe that actually could totally be what Dr. Whittingell's asked you to do, because that could stand to be done. Something I want to draw your attention to is on this finish respawn right here. This happens every time that the level is loaded. So it won't happen the first time the level is created. So if you hit a new game, it won't happen then, but it will happen every time the level is loaded from a save file. So that's why you load the actor here. And I also have this function I had to write to refresh the transcript. Because even though all of the cave person's data would save, it wouldn't show up on the transcript. So that's all that does. And this is my attempt to try to get that sprite to show up on the transcript, but it's just not happening. And this has to do with, oh, sorry, this is actually, I deleted that code because it wasn't working. This is actually about turning that little light green when it's supposed to be green when the major is assigned. So that'll take care of that for you. And the reason why I wanted to bring your attention to this node is, you know, it might be helpful in helping you get that sprite to show up, but I think it is going to be essential in getting those buildings to spawn correctly. Oh, which brings me to actually the level blueprint, which is where I have those buildings spawn. Oh, it's also where you'll turn off the music when it gets a little much for you. Just disconnect that node right there. But yeah, so I have those buildings spawning, and I've tried like setting this boolean so that it only happens the first time, but it's not a good solution apparently. And this boolean is only like set to true whenever it loads. Yeah, but it's not working out so far. And this is the main building parent class. This also builds the monuments. This is the code that deals with all the buildings that are actually like have a major associated with them. So this has monuments and majors. This is just like the major buildings. This I actually haven't messed with much myself. And there's also a child. The child is what's actually showing up in the level, but I believe most of the important code is in this file that's not the child file. I haven't actually messed with this, but like I said, we were getting some feedback about, you know, oh, maybe like after 5 cave people, no more cave people should come through the portal, or something like that. So if you want to implement something like that, like this is probably where you're going to do it. This is very important, probably the most important file. This is just sorry, that was just a level blueprint. This is your controller. So this is your mouse. This is a lot of spaghetti code. I'm sorry, some of this is my fault. Generally, I try to do best practices, but you know, when it's already handed to you as spaghetti code, it happens sometimes. But yeah, so I made this double click macro, and so that like was able to make the transcript pop up, and then I also have a lot of weird boolean checking going on because I was trying to protect from the cave people accidentally getting put into the wrong building, so there's a lot of little delays and stuff like that to make sure that doesn't happen. Definitely look at all this because if you see a way to make it even less likely that a cave person will get put into the building on accident, totally implement that. And down here is where I have the code for the panning. That's also something that, you know, it's definitely, I believe, an improvement from the state it was in. But if you have a way to make the panning even more intuitive, even more responsive, because it's a little laggy right now, definitely check that out and work your magic on that. But yeah, I would say those are the highlights. Those are the things you need to pay the most attention to. I wish you the best of luck. If I'm still at Purdue, my Purdue email is hardy30@purdue.edu. I'm not really sure when Dr. Whittinghill is getting someone new to work on this. So if it's past May 2020, my name is Anna Hardy. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. This project holds a special place in my heart, and so I'd love to help you with it. And you'll definitely learn a lot from working on it. I've learned so much from working on it. So yeah, give it your best shot, and I wish you the best of luck.